Mikey, we appreciate you joining us this morning. How's it going?
Thanks for having me, guys. How y'all doing this morning?
Of course. It's
Happy
good.
Cinco de Mayo for all those who celebrate.
Yeah, a little exciting day.
Yeah.
Especially to shake back from the weekend, but we appreciate you joining us.
Need some excitement. Maybe you go drink the pain away. Maybe go drink, distract yourself from a bad weekend. Not necessarily a bad weekend. I don't call it a bad weekend. Disappointing weekend.
Yeah, and we'll get started there. Just kind of what are your thoughts overarching of the weekend as a whole as LSU drops the series to Texas A&M?
Yeah, I think it played out kind of, not necessarily the wins and losses part of it, but I think the way the games played out was kind of expected. Texas A&M's pitching staff has been good. It's been the strength of their team the entire year. LSU's pitching staff pitched extremely well. I mean, there's no you couldn't look at it and say, hey, they could have done this or this better on the pitch and pitching wise. I thought they pitched the shit out of the ball the entire weekend, starting with Kate Anderson. Obviously, he dealt, and then Ianson was an unbelievable performance by him. And then even on Sunday when, Evans got off to a, rough start, and he kind of grinded his way through, and they're able to mix and match. They had guys come in and do their job and get some they had some lefty-lefty matchups, righty-righty matchups, and they're able to come in and get their job done, and they were able to get to the guy that they wanted to get to at the back end of the game, and it just didn't really work out for us. And sometimes baseball just happens, right? Like, you have a lefty-lefty matchup against Lavalette, and, he gets jammed in a swinging bunt. He hadn't gotten a hit all weekend, and, he placed it perfectly. And, sometimes that just happens, and you can't get mad about that because it happens for us as well. So, a little bit of unfortunate luck in the back end of that game, and one pitch decided the game is really the reality of it.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, the offense was impressive. Not the offense. The defense was impressive. The pitching was outstanding. The offense was the opposite. There were the offensive struggles kind of reared their head again as LSU scored 7 runs total on the weekend, which just, is not going to get it done at any level of baseball. What were kind of your thoughts offensively where LSU kind of struggled again?
Yeah, it's, it was obviously a tough weekend offensively for LSU, and look, Texas A&M, you got to give them a little credit. Their pitching staff did everything that they wanted to do. They mixed and matched pitches, velocities, speeds. They were able to locate. And they were able to put themselves in a position to be in an advantageous position against LSU, against their offense. And LSU had some opportunities. They didn't, execute some of those opportunities. They were able to win a 2-1 game. Was it 2-1 or 2-1 game in game 2 of the doubleheader. And they had an opportunity to win game 1. Didn't work out that way. And, score a little bit more runs in the third game with 4. But, you want to be able to score more runs than that. You want to be able to drive guys in whenever you have the opportunity to. I think that the biggest issue is not necessarily, hey, when you have the opportunity to drive them in, you didn't drive them in. I think it was not giving them the opportunities with less than 2 outs. To drive those guys in and be able to manufacture runs, whether it be a sac fly, safety squeeze, or ground out that ends up turning into an RBI ground out. You didn't have a lot of guys get on base early on. You didn't have a lot of guys put a lot of pressure on the opposing defense consistently, opposing pitcher consistently. Now A&M didn't do that either, right? It was a pitcher's duel the entire weekend. And sometimes you're going to have to win those series. These, from here on out, from last weekend, really, from probably midway through the SEC on, every weekend is a super regional matchup. Every weekend, right? And this is what a super regional matchup is going to be like. Can't expect to score 10 runs every game. That's just not going to happen, right? Can't expect to score 8 runs every game. That's not going to happen. As you get down to the end of the season, you start playing this type of competition. Every single pitch matters, and runs are going to be hard to come by. And we saw that this weekend, and you felt like LSU was in a really good position, which they were, to win the series on Sunday. you had your guy in there, and a couple bad bounces went one way, and then one big swing ended up flipping the game on its head. And that's baseball. You got to pick yourself up off the mat, and you got a big weekend this weekend against a team who just swept the number one team in the country at home. Now you get to go. You get to come back at home and kind of right the ship. And it all is not lost. LSU still is in a good position to be a top 8 national seed, but they got to go and take care of business this coming weekend.
Mikie, unique situation this weekend with 3 left-handed starters. I don't think we've seen that from an LSU opponent all year. I'm not sure how rare or not rare that is. You'd probably have some better insight on that, just a team having 3 lefties and all very good lefties on the mound. How did you see that impact LSU's offense? Like, they didn't get a lot of production out of DC. They didn't get a lot of production out of Jake Brown. Some of the guys they've relied on, their left-handed hitters this year, just didn't really produce. How did you see the way A&M starters impacted the LSU lineup this weekend?
Yeah, I think the lefty matchups, obviously that, LSU's got, they're kind of lefty heavy in a sense of guys that you rely on. But, I think what those guys did for A&M is they were able to work ahead in counts. They're able to locate every single pitch that they had for strikes. And they worked fast, and they were ahead of the count the entire time. And I don't care if you're lefty, righty, if you throw underhand, if that's the case, it's going to be difficult for an offense to kind of find a rhythm because the pitchers aren't allowing them to find that rhythm. And you got to give credit to A&M in a sense because those guys came out there and they were able to deal. Listen, Prager has been one of the better pitchers in the SEC for 3 years. I know his ERA, this year isn't as good as it has been over the last couple of years, but he is one of those guys in the SEC on a Friday that you expect him to go 6-7 innings, and he did that, right? And then the other guys, their 1-2 guys are as good as anybody, and then their third guy stepped up, and he was able to dominate and put them in a position to win the game in the back half of that game. And so I think what really made them good was they were able to locate pitches consistently, not walk guys, and they're able to keep LSU hitters off balance, lefties and righties. It wasn't just the lefty-lefty matchups that were the issues. It was lefties and righties, and they were able to throw their changeups, breaking balls, fastballs, elevate, go down in the zone, in, out. They were able to do whatever they wanted to do, and sometimes you match up against a team that it's clicking for them on the mound, and that's what makes it difficult.
Yeah, and obviously, Jay tinkered a little bit to try to get some rhythm. He mixed the lineup up. He had different guys in different spots. Curiel's been leadoff all season. He drops, he's second in the lineup. He's third. He's fourth, throughout the weekend. You got Bear at the leadoff. What were your thoughts on some of the lineup changes and the way that Jay had constructed it throughout the weekend?
Yeah, it was interesting. Obviously, he was trying to construct a lineup to put these guys in a position either to take some pressure off of them or put them in a position where they may be, driving guys in a little bit more, having opportunities to drive guys in. It was definitely interesting because, it's not something that I thought we were going to see is Curiel hitting 4-hole. I don't think he's a guy that's going to hit. That should be a 4-hole guy. I think he's a top of the lineup type of guy based off of his skill set and what he can do. He's going to hit home runs in the future. I think he's a double-digit home run guy. From here on out, next year and the year after that, if he stays for the year after that. I think what he does as far as work counts, get on base, kind of be the table setter. I think he's obviously a prototypical leadoff guy. But sometimes, the head coach and the guy who sees these guys day in and day out can feel the vibe of a team, and sometimes he needs to just shake things up to try to provide a spark. And obviously, it wasn't enough of a spark, and it didn't score as many runs as he probably would have hoped. But, sometimes you got to do some things that may not be popular with everybody to get the result that you want. And unfortunately, it didn't really work out that way.
Speaking of a couple of things that may not be popular with everybody, I texted you yesterday because there were some the base running aggressiveness had got my heart skipping a couple of beats, especially in Game 3 after seeing what happened in Game number 1. What were your thoughts on the decisions there and the aggressiveness that the coaching staff had with runners, sprinting from second around third base to try to score at home?
So we've talked throughout the whole show about how we weren't able to string a bunch of hits together.
Yep.
We weren't able to score a bunch of runs. Runs came at a premium, and because you're not getting hits, you're not getting runs, right? And so when that happens, when you have an opportunity to get a run or steal a run, you have to try to take it, especially if you're not going to rely on 2 or 3 hits to get that run in, right? And so, the feel of the weekend and the feel of the team was, hey, we've got to figure out a way to get a run. We're not going to score. We're not going to get 3 hits in a row. We haven't shown that we're going to do that yet. And so, both were extremely aggressive sends. I think 95% of the time you don't send those guys, but in that situation, I don't mind it because here's the deal. And first of all, the announcer is terrible, awful, right? Not great. It wasn't just put the Aggie polo on and go on the radio. Like that wasn't great. But they did mention about relays and all this kind of stuff. I don't think they did it in the right way, but Coach Maneri used to always say, everything can go perfect and you still not get to play because there's a lot of things that have to go right for it to happen. You saw it on the first one in the Sunday game. You had a ball off the wall, good relay to the infielder. The infielder comes up, throws it home, kind of skips. Catcher can't field it. Safe. He's out by 10 feet, but the catcher can't get it. Catcher's got a crazy glove. Ball can go any different which way. You don't know where – maybe hits the mound, it stays down. Maybe it's the mound and it hits up. Like, you don't know. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in those types of relays and situations, right? And so whenever you're trying to find runs and you're not scoring any, that may be an opportunity for you to steal a run, and you did that. You're able to do that on the first one. Then you did it again. Now, that one was very aggressive because you had a catcher running to left field, but at the same time, it didn't feel like the left fielder came up and he threw the ball and he short hopped the infielder, and there wasn't even a play at the plate. Hernandez didn't even have to slide, right? Yeah, had he thrown the ball perfectly to the guy and their baseman perfectly to home, yeah, he's out by a mile, but he didn't, right? And that's why you stress that, and that's why you push the envelope, because you're not scoring runs, so let's force them to be perfect in order to score the run. Now, listen, the one I did not agree with was the first one in the doubleheader, because I felt like you had a lot more momentum in that situation, and it was, I think the game was tied at that time, and so it's just I don't really love that one. But same thing, ball kicks off the wall. What if he bobbles it and makes a bad throw? It's just you force the issue, and so basically they're 2 for 3 in those situations over the weekend. I have no problem with it now. Game in and game out, you're not going to see them send them that aggressively. I think it was the situation that dictated it, and I had no problem with it.
So, by and large part, the bullpen was really good this weekend. Maverick Rizzi, some great moments. Connor Ware, DJ Primo, Jaden Newt, they all kind of came in and got the outs they needed to through the pitches they needed to. That's the good side of it. I'm sure we'll get into that. I do want to ask about Zack Cowan, though, because this is a guy that in those super regional games, you're going to need to go out and get you 4 or 5 outs to close out and win a game. And it seemed like A&M really had him figured out the whole weekend. Obviously, Michael Early, their head coach, is a hitting coach. Do you think that they really just honed in on what he does and how they could get to him and then just execute it? Like, what'd you see from A&M versus Zack Cowan specifically?
I think they got him over the plate. I think they got him elevated over the plate. I thought the first game that he gave up, I thought he got squeezed, and I thought that game was over. He shouldn't have given up the hit. I think they got struck out. But look, he's been lights out all year, and I don't necessarily I want to say they figured him out or he's struggling. It was just one of those situations where it was bound to happen. You're not going to be perfect all year. You're going to give up. You're going to have an outing where they're going to get you, and they got him this weekend. I don't think he wasn't walking guys. Like, he made them earn it. He tried to sneak the 2-1 fastball by Sorrell, and he didn't get it there. and look, sometimes that happens. I don't want to say that they figured him out, but what A&M did do a good job of was getting him out over the plate, right? Cowan likes to live on the corners. He likes to live at the bottom of the zone so he could throw the changeup underneath it. Throws a ton of strikes. He comes right at you. And so they got a couple counts where they had hitter counts, and that 2-1 pitch is a fastball that stayed out over the plate, and Sorrell was able to get a barrel on it and hit a homer. But I'm not worried about Cowan at all. I think that it was just one of those situations. I mean, he's got a sub-2 ERA for the entire year. Like he's going to be all right.
Obviously, one of the overarching storylines from game number 1. As much as it was the LSU offense that wasn't able to get the job done, the umpiring was not the best, especially behind the dish in Game 1. How big of a problem is the umpiring right now in SEC baseball as a whole? Because I thought, especially in Game 1, as much as Cade Anderson had some calls that did not go his way, I thought it was pretty bad both ways throughout the weekend. What are your thoughts on the umpiring issues in the SEC?
Yeah, it was bad both ways, and I think that the more popular college baseball gets, the more popular SEC baseball gets, the more scrutinized these umpires are going to be, and the better they need to be. Right? You have this high level competition, high level talent coming into the SEC year in and year out. You have to have the umpires have to be able to match that. And I'm not saying they're all bad, but there's a couple games where you're looking at these guys and it's just you don't know what you're going to get. He's going back and forth between strike zones. One time it's a strike, one time it's a ball. He's calling balls way off the plate. Then he's calling balls on the plate that are strikes. He's calling them balls. It's not consistent. And look, umpiring is going to be like that always. You're never going to have guys that are perfect, but you need to have these guys to have some pride in what they do. And you have to have these guys to understand, listen, this is why I was bad. I got to fix it, right? As opposed to saying, all right, like everybody's got bad games. Everybody's got situations where they're not perfect, but you've got to figure out how to be better than that. And you can't be the reason why a game is decided or not decided. And I feel like, all around the SEC, not just the A&M LSU game, because I thought those umpires weren't good. But Tennessee had issues with their umpires. It's been a problem throughout the course of the season, and I don't know how you fix it. It's not like it's a full-time job for those guys, and so but it's an issue that needs to get fixed, especially with how good the SEC has gotten, with how good college baseball has gotten.
Well, good or bad, the umpires couldn't keep Maverick Rizzi from shoving. He had a really good outing, 2 outings. Well, 2 innings, not out in 2 outings, but good weekend. Thought the bullpen, mentioned it before, we touched on not the bad, but the negative, I guess, with Cowan kind of struggling there. But especially on Sunday, the bullpen shined. Shores, Ware, Newt, Primo all came in, and they did their job, right? I mean, they've struggled at times this year to come in, and if they need one out, get this guy out so we can move down the lineup and keep this thing rolling. They all executed pretty well. But Rizzi's a guy that has shown some flashes and I think really put it all together this weekend. So what's some of the good and promising stuff you saw from the bullpen guys LSU will need in these big games coming up?
Yeah, I think Rizzi and Shores are the 2 guys that you want to highlight. Rizzi is a guy that Jay has confidence in. He's thrown out there a few times. I mean, he put him in a big situation. And, when he throws like that, he's pretty unhittable. I mean, he was locating his fastball. He was throwing upper 90s fastball. He had some serious run and sink to it. That's what Jay expects from him, and that's what he expects from himself. And he looked great. And then Chase Shores, man. I mean, I know, he's a guy that's got more talent than anybody out there. And, he wants to be great, and he works his ass off. He's coming off injury, and he hasn't been perfect for him this year. It hasn't been the way he had kind of drawn it up. And got taken out of that starter role. But, Jay obviously has a ton of confidence in him because he puts him in these situations where that matter. And this weekend he was in that situation. He had a tough first at-bat. He kind of was all over the place, hits the guy, and then he gets to fly out, and then he puts him back out, and he's settled in, and he pitched extremely well. And so I think those two guys moving forward are going to be huge pieces to the bullpen. And then what I really liked was the lefty matchups that they had. They brought in Primo, and Primo got the job done. Big inning, big moment, big situation against a really good hitter. They brought in Cooper Williams, did the same thing. They brought in Conaware, did the same thing. It's just you had a bunch of guys that came in there and did their job, and I think moving forward, that's going to be really good for the bullpen. I got some eye. You're making me cry. You're making me cry because of the weekend.
You're struggling a little bit over there.
Yeah.
Last one here, Kason Evans. He came back down to earth a little bit in game number 3 as he got another start, and he just got that pitch count up. You touched on it a little bit earlier. What did you see specifically from the star freshman for LSU?
Man, sometimes when you go through a first inning, you throw 32 pitches in the first, it's hard to kind of recover from that. And that's kind of what you saw. He only gave up technically 1 run. But look, he gets in the bases loaded jam in the first, gets out of it, kind of maneuvers his way, looks really good in the second. Third inning, got a little bit of trouble, got out of it. And then the fourth inning, his pitch count got so ballooned that he wasn't able to get out of it. I think he looks fine. It was just one of those games where he wasn't as sharp as he needed to be. He grinded through it. That's what I like to see from him. Whenever you're not feeling your best, are you able to grind through those moments and you're able to be as effective as you can be without giving up a ton of runs? Jay knew that he had a full bullpen. I think Jay wanted him to go at least 5, obviously, but he grinded through it, only gave up 1 run, and so didn't kill you. But, those are just kind of learning experiences. You're going to go through those moments, and how do you respond in those moments? How do you grind through it when you don't have your best stuff? And, I was fine with the way he pitched. Obviously, he wasn't perfect, and his pitch count got up there, but you never saw him give in. He competed the entire way, and, I think that's the most important part of it.
Well, we appreciate your time this morning, as always. Great insight from your beautiful mind. And how are you going to be able